In this third lecture for the week, we're going to be looking at guidelines for choosing topics. The first of your project stage assignments, topic and hypothesis reflection, and its 4 strategic themes for getting started with the overall project. In the last lecture, we said that in this course, you're going to be studying a topic, and choosing it, you should choose one that lights up for you. Something about which you want to say, yeah, that's what I want to know more about. I want to understand a certain experience, or I want to solve the problem of X. In the course, you'll see that we'll be using a hypothetical example, a research project that looks at corporal punishment in schools. In the first 4 weeks of the class, you're going to be completing assignments that comprise stages in the overall project. The first of these is called your topic and hypothesis reflection. To complete this assignment, download the guidelines PDF linked in Moodle and start brainstorming for your topic and develop 4 strategic topic themes. 1, you summarize your topic and your interest in it. 2, you list research questions. 3, you pose a research hypothesis. And 4, you start imagining the academic fields that might study the topic. Let's consider the first of those strategic themes, your summary of your topic. Describe the topic and your interest in it, and you can probably do this in 1 or 2 paragraphs, maybe something like this. I've heard students are being paddled at my child's junior high. I know kids have been paddled for centuries, and I do think kids need discipline, but what are the effects of corporal punishment on school kids? Will my kids suffer now, later? Okay, let's look at this. Is this what we might call a good topic? Many students attempting to complete a project like this run into trouble if they choose certain kinds of topic. The first is what we might call an alienated topic, that is, a topic that bores the student and kills off the energy. Next, why is there air kind of topic. These are topics that are too vast or vague to study effectively or to come up with an answer. Then there are value judgment topics that are unarguable. For example, is television bad for our society? Well, whose definition of bad are we using, and how would you find evidence other than mere conflicting opinions? One of the real problems is if you have an unstudied topic, a topic that is not being studied by academic researchers. Or what we might call a blinder topic. That is, a topic about which you really care, so much so that you have a hard time thinking straight about it. You can't really be open-minded or reason coolly. It's a pet peeve and you just want to rant. Now let's pause for a moment to consider opinion and passion. In academic writing, caring is good, but passions have to be controlled. Personal passion is not convincing. The fact that you feel strongly about something will not convince academic readers, such as your instructor in a course. You have to be disciplined. You have to be emotionally cool and express yourself impersonally. Focus on fact, not feeling. Most importantly, academic readers demand arguments, claims supported by credible, mostly empirical research, an acknowledgement of the limits of what we know, and a reference to contrary evidence or alternate viewpoints. Now we've used a term here, empirical questions of fact. Consulting the online Merriam-Webster, we find certain parts of the definition. An empirical issue is one that is based on observation or experience. It's capable of being verified or disproven by observation or experiment. For academics, a key part of this is that it be measurable, quantifiable. Now, what all this means varies depending on your academic discipline. They have different methodologies of how to do observation and experimentation. and they respond differently to levels of subjective opinion. But every academic field has a discipline methodology. This is the criterion that establishes legitimacy for research and argument. In our course, we aim at a sort of general consensus methodology for academic fields. And in that context, we offer some guidelines for a good topic. It's a good topic if you care and know something about it already, while retaining an open and fair mind. You need both of those things. It's a good topic if it can be focused narrowly for a short research project. It's a good topic if scholars in some academic field are very likely to currently be studying it. It's a good topic if it has an empirical dimension involving questions of fact and answerable with empirical evidence. Okay, so corporal punishment in the schools, is that a good empirical topic? Well, that all depends on the formulation. This is a broad topic that can be looked at in various ways. Suppose someone wanted to talk about whether corporal punishment was good or bad, or the fact that it's a treasured tradition versus old school folly, or the opinion of strong, maybe authoritative voices, or public opinion in general, effects on student learning, influence in later life. In all of these, we can ask the question, are these observable, measurable, and currently studied? Let's compare two approaches to this topic. Corporal punishment as good or bad. Well, this is an impossibly broad claim. It's a value judgment, but there's no clear definition of what these values refer to. And it's impossible to measure or observe, as it's currently stated, except by asking people what they think. Now compare this version. Corporal punishment's effect on learning through students' self-esteem. Okay, this is much more sharply focused on specific aspects of the topic. How does it affect learning? More specifically, how does it affect students' self-esteem? A values judgment has been transformed into a claim of cause and effect, and this is definitely measurable using normal education metrics. Many students begin a project like this with what we might call a poor topic, but that doesn't mean that the whole topic needs to be thrown out. It can evolve by reformulating it. If you've got an impossibly broad scope, well, you can narrow the focus. If you've got questions of value or pet peeves, you can shift to a related empirical question of fact. Is something not being studied? Well, revise your concept so that you find something that is being studied by some academic field. An excellent tool for doing this is the research question. A research question recognizes gaps in our knowledge or understanding. In this topic, I want to know more about such and such. And these are powerful focusing tools. Using them, we can identify subtopics that we want to explore and different angles on those subtopics. These lead to different kinds of research source. In your topic and hypothesis assignment, list 4 to 6 questions that you would like to answer that chart a range of the possibilities. At this point, we want to see the broad topic terrain, knowing we can't cover it all. Okay, so we can use research questions to refine a topic. We can transform a vague subjective opinion into a sharply focused empirical question. So, for example, question: is corporal punishment a treasured tradition or an old school folly? Well, if we leave it like that, all we can do is ask people, well, what's your opinion and attitude? But we could transform this into empirical research. What are current public attitudes toward corporal punishment? Is there a consensus view of school administrators? These kinds of questions are likely to be studied by educators and sociologists. How about the question of whether corporal punishment is good or bad for kids? Well, first of all, let's get rid of good and bad. Those are value judgments, and they don't really mean anything. Then we want to take this broad topic and narrow it. We want to identify measurable subtopics that explore the effects of corporal punishment. So how does corporal punishment affect children's self-esteem as learners? How do student outcomes compare for schools with and without corporal punishment? How does corporal punishment affect classroom atmosphere, morale, behavior? How does it correlate later in life with other kinds of problems? These things surely are studied in education, sociological, and criminological fields. Okay, let's establish some basic guidelines. First, in your research questions, avoid value judgments. Would universal public health care be good for America? Well, that depends on your viewpoint, and it's way too broad to get an answer to. If necessary, recast such judgments and ask questions of measurable, testable fact. Would universal public health care cost more or less than private health insurance? That's a question of fact. How do outcomes from American privately funded health care compare with those of nations with universal public health options? Again, a measurable, testable question of fact. As you list your questions, start thinking about what you expect to find. Formulate a research hypothesis. Now, what do we mean by a hypothesis? Well, this is a prediction of what you will find, and you will confirm it or deny it when you start looking at actual research data. A hypothesis is the core of honest critical thinking. It's a willingness to subject your assumptions and ideas to an empirical test. I think such and such. Well, does the evidence support me or not? Wait, what? I don't understand. A research hypothesis? This is an issue that a lot of students struggle to understand. Let's boil it down. By a hypothesis, we mean your instinctive prediction right now about what you will find in your research. It's a prediction that you then test by doing some research and examining that prediction in light of your findings. Was your original hypothesis supported or contradicted by what you found, or both? What unanswered questions need further research? A key reason for emphasizing a hypothesis at this stage is that Western scholarship has a methodology with a hypothesis at its core. First, you fairly review the research in a given field. You formulate a research hypothesis that is testable with observations and measurement following field methodology. You honestly assess the results. Is this hypothesis supported by evidence? What are the limits of the findings? What unanswered questions remain? This is how scholars in the West work. So, coming back to our example of corporal punishment, we might offer a hypothesis something like this. I predict that research data will support the conclusion that corporal punishment in a school does not harm students and is likely to lead to better discipline, learning, and harmony. That's what I'm predicting to find before I start reading. Now, it's crucial to understand that the focus of the hypothesis is not on the truth of the topic. You're not being asked to predict that corporal punishment will be shown to be, in some absolute sense, a crucial part of education. That's not what your hypothesis is about. Rather, it's a prediction of what you will find in the research. I predict that my research will support the idea that corporal punishment is whatever. It's a prediction about what the research will say, not about the truth. It may help you to understand a hypothesis by comparing it to a conclusion. Remember, your hypothesis is your prediction right now, before you do the research. It is not the same thing as the thesis statement of your report. Your research conclusion will be decided upon in week 4 after you do your research. That's your conclusion about what you've found, stated as your thesis statement in the report. Now, right now, don't worry about that. Right now, our emphasis on the hypothesis asks, what do you predict you will find? If you have questions about this, contact your instructor. Okay, you've got a topic, you've got research questions, you've got an expectation of what you'll find. Now you need to look for sources. And the fourth of our reflection themes is to start thinking about likely sources of research, credible web sources, academic fields likely to study your topic. For example, corporal punishment in schools? Well, that's definitely studied in education literature. And we might find education web portals that look at this literature. It's also probably studied by sociologists and perhaps criminologists. In this section, try to predict fields that study your topic. Do this to the best of your ability. We understand you're not an expert, and your topic may lead away from your normal area of interest. So do the best you can here. Try to think what kinds of academics are likely to study your topic, and what credible information sources might inform you on your topic. If you need help with this, contact your instructor. Now, in doing all this, try to relax. Topic, research questions, hypothesis. Please understand, you're not signing a contract in blood. Your project will inevitably evolve and change. Most research projects start out in one direction and then meander in other directions as they develop. Sometimes things you expect to find close down and you can't find them. And other angles you didn't expect to find open up. All of that is fine. Your final focus may very well differ from the original. Still, we have to start somewhere. Pick a road to walk and ask your instructor for guidance.